whatever you feel the most passionate about, where you feel when you wake up in the morning, you're not going to work.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Today we got kind of an interesting one for you guys. We brought on two of our previous guests from our podcast, Jeffrey Himmel and McCarthy. Jeff being the branding expert, he took the Ovaltine brand, revitalized it. It was eventually sold to Nestle. And Sean has helped countless CEOs better their health, live in a connected way, reduce stress, and he has his foundation called the TEDS Foundation with his wife, Brenda Schultz, who is also on this episode. She was top 10 in the world in tennis, and Sean helped heal her, and now they have the TEDS Foundation. The only issue is that while Sean and TEDS does great stuff, they just haven't had much traction as far as marketing. So in this episode, we bring on Jeff, and we kind of have a conversation around how they can market their untraditional, unknown product a little bit better. So we talk about finding your target market, we talk about niching down, and then again, how do you find that hook for a product that is not well known? So hope you guys enjoy. Welcome to The Visionary Entrepreneur. My name is Dane Dunlap.
And I'm Nicholas Genovese.
This is a podcast where we interview entrepreneurs about their story and visions for the future. We're here to create a space to network and to learn from each other's experiences. See if we could take a great product and kind of study how we can market that a little bit better. So Jeff being a brand and marketing expert, we thought getting into this would be really interesting. So I don't know if Sean, if you want to get into a little bit more of your product, and it'll give us a little bit of a background of how we can best market that.
Well, I think I joke around sometimes that Brenda and I are the bad back family. When I was in college playing football at the University of Cincinnati, I injured my back and I wasn't able to continue my college career. So I had a couple of years of fun and then a few years of working in the weight room. While I worked in the weight room, I kind of wanted to try and understand why the doctor said I have the back of a 70-year-old man at 19, and I wanted to be able to live a full life. So I just started using myself as a chemistry lab of how to change my body physically. At that time, I thought physically was the way to do it. Later on, when Brenda and I were married, her mother passed away a few weeks before our wedding. And I think the stress caught up with her about 18 months later when she was top 10 in the world at the top of her game, and she injured her back. And we tried all the traditional approaches and alternative approaches, and things didn't really work, including surgery. So a doctor at the French Open told her it was all in her head. So I made it my mission to understand the head. And what I really understood is that the head was part of the equation, but not the whole equation. And stress is the biggest limiting factor for all people. So I really dove into learning stress. And then that kind of just spread out into our tennis business of helping tennis players, which expanded to more athletes, which expanded to more of the general public, executives and alike. So really what we do is typically when somebody runs into a wall that the non-traditional things can't help, we have a way of looking at things from a point of view and implementing programs or referring people to programs that are non-traditional or integrate with traditional things to give people the ability to rise above. I joke around today, I was talking to Nick about a value proposition. I said, one of the things that we really do is we engineer miracles for people. And we find out if that can be a very quick miracle, instantaneous, or it's going to take over time where they're going to need to learn and be educated and put time and travel maybe to meet other experts.
Yeah, and I think when you said, you guys engineer miracles, I think that, from my experience, definitely describes what you do, but I'm sure that's not always an easy thing to market.
Entrepreneurs love to talk about the different specifications of their products because they're so good at it, just like what exactly we do in the sense of what techniques we use. But bringing the value proposition to the customer doesn't mean the same thing. So I'd love to, Jeff, to ask you, how do you bring a non-traditional product to the market and create a value proposition and a hook so a customer actually realizes that they have that issue?
And I think that bear with me one second. they're important questions to answer. Sean, you were talking about how it started out in tennis, then it went to athletes, then it went to the general public. And in terms of stress, stress captures a lot of different areas. It covers mental health, covers eating disorders, physical handicaps, chronic disease, just general stress from life. The whole area around tennis players, retiring tennis players. I know quite a few players on the tour, and if you weren't in the top 50 or top 35, you get off tour, particularly if you never made it through a high school. You got a tough life. You got a tough life trying to figure it out. I always thought there was an opportunity there for the ATP to, or the USTA to step up and do something for, the retired athletes. Where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is, it's not clear to me who your market is. Who are you trying to serve? I mean, when I look at the testimonials, you've got kids on there, you've got parents. Is this meant to be just for those who play tennis? I saw a lot of other activities. I saw, camping and other activities. Is tennis the common denominator?
No, it's not anymore. At one time it was, but
You don't have to answer this right now, because
okay.
you'll understand where I'm going. As an outsider, as I look at your website, I sit there and I ask myself the question that Nick asked me 45 seconds ago. And that is, what's the value proposition? Who are you? Yeah, I understand who Sean is, who Brenda is. With Brenda's background and experience, all of that work ethic, dealing with adversity, knowing how to build resilience through painful moments. That was exciting to me, knowing nothing about this, thinking, oh, I want to hear from Brenda. And then you get on the website and I never even see Brenda. All I see is Sean. I'm not being critical of Sean or of Brenda. I'm saying, as an outsider, here are the questions. So, who is the question? When you look at value proposition, you have to look at it in the context of, okay, this is a camp. And in the world of camps, if there are 12,000 camps in the United States and close to 10,000 of them are not-for-profits, and the overwhelming majority of them address children and adults to build powerful lessons in community, in character building, in skill development, in healthy living. What is your value proposition? You have an idea on what your value proposition is. Have you done an exhaustive review of your landscape, of your competitive landscape, to really scope that out? Now, I'm not looking for an answer to that right now either, because that takes time. If I am a parent, if I were a potential sponsor, an investor of what you and Brenda are doing, I'd want to know, what is the sustainability of this operation? Who are they? Where are they going? What's their secret sauce? Who's their target market? How are they going after their target market? It's clear to me that between the two of you, you have vast experience, and what you have learned on your respective courts and fields can carry into serious life lessons off the court and off the field. No doubt. Couple that with all of this additional learning that, I was able to pick up, listening to Sean. Sean's got a lot of experience, very valuable but that brand personality is still extremely opaque for me. I don't know what it is. Again, the point is not to tell this to me on the phone, because you'd be shortchanging yourself to assume that unless you've given this, as an example, we're launching and Nick knows this, I'm launching, and I may have mentioned this to you, Sean, we're launching 2 brands right now. One is a line of acne products, and the other is an online skincare store. Really understanding extremely well who we are, what is our brand personality, what is our brand purpose, what do we aspire to be, who is our target market, what's our plan to go after them. That has to be a very clear vision as to who we're trying to attract, how we're going to get there, the resources we need. All of that has to, and how are we differentiated? Because if at the end of the day we're not differentiated, look, if this is a community-based initiative, the point of differentiation could be we're the only ones in Georgia. I don't know, which it could be sufficient. It gets back to your own goals and aspirations, what you're trying to accomplish. Is this intended to be, look, there's a lot of not-for-profit camps that make a lot of money. They're very successful. Is this meant to be a purely, now I'm interested in hearing your answers. Like, what is your vision here? I mean, is the goal here to build a sustainable, profitable business that has the ability to offer the market something that can't be found elsewhere? What is your vision? What do you aspire to be 5 years out?
I don't like the answer no, which is the most spoken word in the world. And the worst thing that I like to see is somebody is told, this has to happen. There's no other option. Okay. So what I wanted to do is to create a place where when people were told no, that they would either come here, and when they left, no was no longer part of the equation because there had been a transformation, or they had been given a toolbox and a way to live and the resources from coaching or other ancillary care providers, which could be physicians, so that no longer was an example. So my feeling is creating a place to learn how to heal and live, that I honestly believe there's no place in the world that can deliver what we do, because if there was, I would work there. And I've been all over the world and worked with the top people in pretty much every field and everything in health related. So my thing is, it goes beyond health, because people don't know how to live. There's plenty of people that get healed and don't know how to live. They have to have a way to live after they're healed. So they have to be taught a toolbox of living as well. So what I'm really trying to do is create a destination, whether it's physical or virtual, where people can be given the hope and tools to overcome the impossible.
I was just going to chime in here real quick. I think that the issue that we're talking about, which is you can help such a wide range of people and anybody can really benefit from what you guys do. It's actually a similar problem that I think Nick and I run into with our podcast, which is we really feel like the information that we can provide can help a really wide variety of people. So I think it also goes into, and I don't know, Jeff, if you want to answer this as well, is when you can help such a wide variety of people, should you try to niche down, or should you try to keep your audience wide and just really narrow down your value proposition for that wide audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the broader it is, if the market is to teach people how to heal and live, that is one broad market. I mean, healing, one of the things that I do when I get into a business, and I would encourage you to do it, is it's called brand mapping. And effectively what you do is you map out the entire competitive landscape on an axis, on a 4-quadrant axis, and you define the axes in terms of, so the vertical axis could be, a spectrum dealing with how you address healing. where on the extreme right is hospitalization, and on the extreme left is, you know, community-based social gatherings, whatever it happens to be. But to really map it out. So one is, once you've defined the area of healing, I think if you say our mission in life is to heal, to help the world learn how to heal themselves and thrive, not survive, to thrive.
That sounds
Okay,
good.
okay, but what does that mean?
Right.
Who are you going after? I guess tennis players are sort of out the window. They're not, and I'm not saying that good, bad, or indifferent, but the point is that you got to start somewhere, and you got to start somewhere and build traction somewhere. I'm not suggesting it should be with tennis players, even though we all know that retired tennis players, where you have some relationships, obviously a lot of relationships, there's clearly a need from, let's say, a mental health perspective. I'm not saying that's where you should go at all. But what I'm saying is that if you don't narrow, you know, our mission in life is to heal the world and to help people thrive. I mean, how are you going to, what's your secret sauce to heal the world? As opposed to, let's focus on the needs of vets. I'm making this up. Why vets? Because one of our founders is a vet, has strong relationships with the VA. His partner is trained in mental health. They've been passionate about this for 30 years. Okay, so now that begins to, you can see, because at the end of the day, you need these seeds. So there has to be certain things in the DNA that just don't present themselves when someone knocks on the door and says, can you help me because my kid has an eating disorder, and you say, we're going to go build a camp around eating disorders. It's got to be something that's been intrinsic in your gut and in your bloodstream for such a long period of time that you have a credibility in this, and you bring a level of know-how and capability to it. And I love the idea. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go down the path of let's, you know, help the world heal and thrive. But it would be good if you could narrow it down and say, okay, within healing, we're going to deal with post-traumatic stress syndrome. We're going to deal with eating disorders. We're going to deal with whatever turns you two on, whatever you feel the most passionate about, where you feel when you wake up in the morning, you're not going to work, where you feel this thing is going to just, you know, you're going to be able, and you have experience in the area so that it's going to be easy to attract all the resources, you know, the know-how in the field, because at the end of the day, you know, you will need, when it comes to, you know, healing and thriving, you know, having an advisory board that's expert in these areas, whether it's Western medicine, Eastern medicine, whatever it happens to be. There's a certain level of expertise to understand disease states, chronic disease. You know, you want to talk about getting people head off at the problem before it comes, fine. If as an example, in pre-diabetes, you have a very short window of 2 years before an A1C hits 7.0, in which to prevent the onset. Well, in that case, you need to have certain alliances and relationships with certain, you know, nutritional organizations that are licensed and have expertise in helping certain populations, you know, address chronic disease. No, maybe everything I'm saying is, you know, 100% of what I'm telling you, which would be wonderful, in which case you've just done a poor job of messaging it, because it doesn't come through in the website. What you're telling me right now, Sean, is so vague and I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just trying to tell you the way I see it. If I were sitting in your shoes, if I were your brand manager working for you, and you said to me, Jeff, here's our mission in life. We're going to help the world heal and thrive. Go to work, put together a business plan for me. I mean, I probably wouldn't have taken the job without knowing what's in your head, where you're passionate about. What's the pathway you want to go down? Where do you want to go? Because at the end of the day, I can help you, but you have to know, it cannot be that the person on this side knows more about this than you do. And the only way you get to that point is through the vast experience that you have, which you have. You have that experience. So if you can try to narrow it down to specific groups, certain target markets, maybe it's kids, maybe it's tennis, maybe it's eating disorders, I don't know. But that focus is essential. Otherwise, it's hard to build. It's hard enough in the context of a camp to make money. Okay, and I'm not saying that you're doing this for the money. On the other hand, you need something that's going to be, be sustainable, and you need to convince donors to support you.
Right.
It'll be easier to get the support of others when they can lack onto a mission that's very clear.
But that's why it's so hard. We have to pinpoint one thing, and the problem is we're helping all this different.
Exactly. Now,
I don't know. I mean, it's just something. I think part of the issue is that
I think what we enjoy with the most is athletes. Like when Dane and Nicholas was there, that's what we enjoy the most, helping them with their future. If it is injuries, but just athletes in general. We were both athletes, and we hate to see people retire, and that they shouldn't be retiring. So when it comes down to both of our really passion is working with athletes. Now we get suckered into all these other things.
Now I'm beginning to hear something that sounds like it's you.
Yeah.
And and you speak with authority. And you speak with authority on a subject, and it's a real issue, and it's right in your sweet spot.
Right.
Very.
Yeah,
you know what? It's the first time in this 15 minutes where I saw a smile on your face.
Yeah, the other stuff is a little farther from my sweet spot.
Well,
Jeff, I was just going to ask, do you turn away the people that are not in that niche? If let's say it is athletes, do you turn away people that need help that are not athletes?
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't. It's no different than if I'm brought 100 different business opportunities. Where am I going to focus my resources and my time? Or if I want to go on a charitable board, where do I want to spend my time? It's got to be something where you feel you can add value. You have to be able to add value, and and where are you passionate? And what Brenda, what you just said was like, that was it.
Right.
That was it.
I guess the passion comes from being on the top of your game and having it taken away from you. And with the knowledge that we have now, it shouldn't have taken away from me, right? Sean being on the top of his game in the football, being in his third year in Cincinnati as a football college player, friends of his told me he could have been a professional football player, but it was taken away from him. So maybe it's not as dramatic as somebody who has cancer or people that come to us, but it is in our sweet spot.
Let's say your target market is athletes, or is athletes who are desperately in need. Is that if we say your target market, because that's your target market because that was the best emotional response we had in the meeting so far. How do you hook athletes, Jeff? What would you say? What are different techniques to hook an athlete? Where somebody like Dane is first year in college, wasn't able to hit a tennis ball, and then he was so desperate that after the doctor saying he can't play tennis anymore, he would literally listen to anything and anyone. How do you hook a person like that they pay money to somebody like the TEDS Foundation and use them to get better? Because that's what happened. There was just no financial exchange.
Yeah, well, look, there's so much we're going to accomplish in this meeting, but if you want an answer, let's ask Brenda.
How do you hook them?
Yeah. Brenda, what have you seen? What have you seen, Brenda, firsthand with athletes, with girls on tour, coming off tour, struggling on tour?
Right. No, it's sad the advice they're getting. Yeah, drink Gatorade. I mean, it's really sad. Just what I have seen with injuries and things like that, even to the level of Andre Agassi, it was like a handful of Advil. Otherwise, my body doesn't work. And the level, how do you say that, of information that they're getting on the top of the game, maybe not a Federer, maybe not a Djokovic, and it shows because they keep going, but they keep their secret for themselves. They don't tell the whole world what they eat, how they use their body.
There's a lot of things the top of the game do
Right.
that the other people don't have access
But
to.
anything out of the top 10, the information that they're getting from the trainers and things. And I've tried to say to the WTA, like, please, can we do a seminar? Can we talk to the girls? Can we give them my history, how I got back on the tour, and at 37, I had 130 miles an hour serve after not playing for 7 years. And my record before was 123 when I was on the top of my game, top 10 in the world. There is a reason. There's something that happened, that made that happen. And they just want to stay with their people at the tour that think they know it all.
I think it's easy to market the traditional, like drink more Gatorade, stretch more, whatever it is for an athlete. It's kind of easy, but I think the thing is it's not easy to market the non-traditional, which is, kind of what you guys do and help so many people. So I guess it's how do you hook athletes, even though it's something that they don't even know could help them, or they don't have no idea about the product. It's just brand new to them. I think one big thing with athletes before we go into the conversation is, Jeff, you talk a lot about addressing a pain point in your target audience. And I think one thing with athletes is they don't even understand what their pain point might be. So obviously injury, physical pain point is a thing, but there's a lot of mental pain points that athletes don't quite realize in themselves. For example, for me, when I visited you a second time, I had a pain point. I didn't know it. And it was uncertainty I have all these skills, I have this work ethic, but I don't know how to use it. And I think that's another pain point that athletes run into. So they're not very good at recognizing it.
Brilliant. And you know what's great about that, Dane? I can relate to that because I've been close over the years with former ATP players that, got the top 10 in the world in tennis. And when they retired, they experienced exactly what you were just saying. They were like a fish out of water and they struggled. And the subject that you just brought up is a great area, and the beauty of it is if you do it well with athletes, you will have established credibility that you can take to non-athletes.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. I mean, better to deal with athletes because athletes, at least when they're in their sport, they have a work ethic unmatched. Perseverance, unmatched. Ability to handle adversity, unmatched. So they come in with great raw materials for what to do when they get off the court. Then, to your point, Dane, they're lost. And that feeling is something that happens even to non-athletes. But if you focus first on athletes, where Sean and Brenda both have experience, it's almost like your training ground that's where you got your stripes. You were able to work with that audience, do it well, and then you will be able to make the move into non-athletes because the subject matter will resonate as strongly because we're all human beings. It's just that maybe
Well, I think
maybe the athletes have a better chance at success given, their skill sets that they, have honed since the age of 3.
I think that not only your camp and everything you do helped me finish on the right terms, but it also helped me think of life in a new way and kind of take my sport. Okay, that chapter of my life is done now, but now how can I take that work ethic, apply it in the right way, and now go through the rest of my life with a different mindset, still having the skills that I previously earned.
right.
Jeff, do you want to say something about the hook, how you can reformalize it before we end this call? Or are you smoked?
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's all about grabbing attention. You have to grab attention of an audience. And it's that hook, it's that differentiator that is going to resonate. And it's also going to give you the clarity on how to focus your resources, both human and financial, and how you build resources. So that's it. I mean, focus, build that, find that niche you want to go after, and then identify the hook, and you're on your way. And you'll be, as you start to become successful, you'll be, victimized by your success, and you'll have a whole new set of problems. But that's the subject of another podcast.
Well, we definitely got a lot of interesting topics on this podcast. I learned a lot, and Dane did, and Sean, Brenda did, and I hope you did as well, Jeff. But
Absolutely.
I think we're going into the right direction.
Amazing.